Welcome to today's deep dive. If you spent any time around families or schools or even just local parks lately, you've probably noticed a pretty massive shift in the air.
Oh, absolutely. It's palpable.
Right. So the mission for our conversation today is to explore that shift. We want to navigate the modern landscape of youth extracurriculars and really look at the intense pressure that surrounds kids' activities right now.
It's a heavy topic, but a really necessary one.
Yeah, it really is. And to do this, we are going to be drawing from a highly insightful excerpt from episode 8 of a show called ACTIQO. That's the Parenting Division podcast.
Great source material for this.
Truly, the specific topic they tackled, which we are going to, really tear into today for you, is this question: are kids' activities becoming too serious too early?
It is a question that seems to be on the minds of almost every parent, educator, and coach right now. The discussion in that source really captures the zeitgeist of modern childhood
Totally.
because we are looking at a landscape where the casual neighborhood pickup game has largely been replaced.
Replaced by highly organized, highly competitive, and frankly, highly demanding structures.
Exactly.
Okay, let's unpack this, because the contrast between how childhood activities used to feel and how they feel today is stark.
It's a completely different world.
It is. I mean, think back to a generation or two ago. Joining a club or playing a sport was primarily exploratory.
You just tried things out.
Right. You grabbed a baseball glove, headed to the local diamond, and just figured it out with your friends. Or if you wanted to play an instrument, maybe you plunked away at a keyboard in the living room trying to figure out a movie theme song by ear.
It was very casual, driven by pure curiosity.
But today's environment is incredibly different. Sports, music lessons, dance, robotics clubs, they have all become highly structured and intensely competitive right out of the gate.
The baseline for participation has shifted from that casual exploration to a serious, specialized commitment almost overnight. The source points out that in many communities, children are joining travel teams at astonishingly young ages. We are talking about 7- or 8-year-olds committing to year-round training schedules.
Which is wild to think about.
It really is. They are specializing in a single activity at an age where, developmentally, they are still just trying to figure out how the physical world works.
I do think we need to acknowledge a really important nuance here, though. This trend isn't universally a bad thing.
No, definitely not.
Because for some kids, this highly structured, competitive environment is genuinely exciting. They are the kids who, they thrive on practicing.
Right.
They love the measurable progress of improving, and they absolutely light up when they're competing. Some kids just crave that level of structure.
What's fascinating here is the stark contrast for the other side of the coin.
The kids who don't crave it.
Exactly, because while that highly structured environment works for a very specific type of child, for many others, it fundamentally changes the nature of the experience.
Yeah, it goes from play to pressure.
When activities become highly competitive at very young ages, children often feel immense pressure to perform before they have even had a chance to discover what they actually enjoy.
We really need to linger on the psychology of this shift for a moment.
Please do.
Because I think a lot of people see an 8-year-old in elite training and just assume, oh, that kid is a prodigy who loves the grind.
Right, but let's look at the neuroscience of play. A 7- or 8-year-old's brain is wired for broad exploration, not hyper-specialization.
It's about breadth, not depth yet.
Precisely. Imagine being a child who just likes kicking a soccer ball around the backyard.
Yeah.
You are exploring your physical capabilities. It's fluid.
It's just fun.
But suddenly, you are thrust into an environment where your performance is being evaluated, tracked, and compared to others on a travel team.
That's heavy for a kid.
It is. The psychological shift from play to work is profound in a developing brain. Intrinsic motivation, doing something just because it feels good and is fun, is incredibly fragile.
Let me play devil's advocate for a second, though.
Go for it.
Don't kids need to learn how to work hard? Isn't that the entire point of putting them in sports or piano lessons in the first place? To teach them that discipline yields results.
They absolutely need to learn discipline. But there is a massive difference between discipline driven by an internal passion and discipline forced by external pressure. When you overlay intrinsic joy with heavy extrinsic pressures like winning high-stakes games, pleasing an intense coach, or keeping up with a demanding travel schedule, you risk extinguishing that natural spark entirely.
The child begins to associate the activity not with the joy of movement or the thrill of discovery, but with stress.
Stress, expectation, and the fear of failure.
This becomes a job.
Exactly. It's a job. Think about it like the classic psychology experiment with drawing that gets referenced in this space a lot.
Oh, the one with the rewards.
Yeah, you take a kid who loves to draw just for fun, and you start paying them $1 for every picture they finish.
And at first, they draw a ton.
Right. For a while, they draw a lot, but the moment you stop paying them, they stop drawing entirely. The internal joy was completely overwritten by an external reward system.
When overly structured, high-stress, athletic or academic environments do the exact same thing.
They absolutely do. They can cause kids to completely lose interest in activities they previously loved. They burn out before they even reach middle school.
And that burnout is so visible, too. You see these kids dragging their feet to the car, dreading the very thing they begged to sign up for a year ago.
It's heartbreaking to watch.
It is. But this brings us to another huge piece of the puzzle that the deep dive source tackles. It is not just the kids feeling the heat here.
No, the parents are right there in the fire with them.
Exactly. The families, the parents, they are caught in this massive, exhausting trap. When other kids in your community are training more, when they're traveling across the state for weekend tournaments or specializing in one sport by age 8, families feel immense pressure to follow that exact same path.
Just to stay competitive.
Right. Just to keep their kid from falling behind.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, we can see the core dilemma this creates for families today. It forces parents into an almost impossible corner.
They really have to ask themselves some tough questions.
They do. They have to ask, is it better to focus on one activity early and pursue it seriously so my child isn't left behind? Or is childhood supposed to be a time to explore many different interests before deciding what truly fits?
And the cultural narrative right now heavily pushes the former.
Heavily pushes early specialization, yes.
I completely understand why parents panic, though. I want to push back on the idea that this is just superficial keeping up with the Joneses.
It's much deeper than that.
Right. If you have a kid who shows real promise, isn't there a biological window you miss if you don't put them in elite training by age 8? The fear of missing out is practically weaponized against parents.
It is.
You are sitting in the bleachers, and another parent casually mentions that their child is doing private speed and agility coaching on Tuesdays. Suddenly you are panicking, thinking, wait, is my kid going to be benched next season if we don't do that too?
That is a very real fear. But the data discussed in our source material suggests that the biological window for early specialization is largely a myth for the vast majority of sports and activities.
Really?
A myth. Yes. Outside of a few highly specific fields like gymnastics or figure skating, early specialization doesn't actually guarantee long-term elite status.
That is so reassuring to hear.
It is. In fact, many professional athletes were multi-sport kids who didn't specialize until high school. But you are right, the FOMO is incredibly potent. It creates an absolute arms race of childhood development.
And that arms race requires a staggering investment. We're talking about lost weekends, driving 3 hours to stay in a mediocre hotel for a tournament.
Oh, the hotel stays.
We are talking about thousands of dollars in fees, specialized equipment, and the sheer emotional toll it takes on the entire household. It is exhausting just thinking about it.
It is exhausting. And worse, it obscures what actually matters. The episode we are exploring cuts through the noise of this arms race to highlight a critical reality.
Which is,
when we look at the long-term outcomes for kids, the metric for success isn't how many travel teams they were on at age 9 or how early they hired a private coach.
here's where it gets really interesting. Because you would think, given the thousands of dollars parents are pouring into these activities, they would want a tangible return on investment.
They want the results.
Right. They want the trophy or the flawless recital or the varsity letter. But the source discussion reveals that the absolute clearest signal of success, the best indicator of whether an activity is actually beneficial, is simply enjoyment.
Enjoyment is the ultimate metric.
Okay, but practically speaking, why is that? Are trophies and skill acquisition just totally irrelevant?
They aren't irrelevant, but they are byproducts, not the foundation. The connection made here is scientifically profound. Enjoyment actually changes how the brain functions.
How so?
When a child genuinely enjoys an activity, it puts their brain in a state of relaxed alertness. This is the optimal neurological state for learning, memory retention, and skill acquisition.
So if they are stressed and afraid of making a mistake, they literally can't learn the skill as well.
Precisely. High stress releases cortisol. And cortisol impairs the very cognitive functions needed to master complex tasks, whether that's a piano sonata or a complex soccer play.
That makes perfect sense.
When a child enjoys what they are doing, you don't have to force them to practice. They want to engage. The repetition comes naturally. The improvement is a byproduct of their joy, not the result of forced labor.
We've probably all felt this in our own lives, too. I mean, think about the hobbies or skills that actually stuck with you into adulthood.
The ones you chose.
Exactly. I'm guessing they were the ones you actually wanted to do on a Saturday morning, not the ones your parents forced you to practice while you stared at the clock on the wall.
Very true.
So we need to completely reframe the conversation around kids' activities. Instead of asking, how serious should this activity be or what levels should they be playing at, parents need to step back and ask a fundamentally different set of questions.
They need to ask, is this something my child looks forward to? Or is it something they feel they have to do?
That distinction right there, the difference between looking forward to something and feeling obligated to do it, that is the dividing line between an activity that builds a child up and one that tears them down.
If an activity has become something they feel they must do to appease a coach, maintain a social status, or satisfy a parent, the experience has likely become way too stressful.
And that is when kids lose interest in things they once loved.
Right. The tragedy isn't that a kid decides to quit baseball. The tragedy is that they quit baseball because the adult-imposed structure crushed the fun out of a game they used to love.
It's so hard to step back and see that when you're just trying to survive the carpool lane, though.
Oh, without a doubt.
You're running on fumes, managing dinners, getting kids to different fields, and your memory of how fun a season actually was gets totally warped by the day-to-day stress.
Yeah.
You don't always have the bandwidth to analyze the emotional undercurrents of every single practice.
No one does.
But that's actually the exact problem our source tries to solve today. They introduce a concept called decision intelligence through a platform called ACTIQO. For you listening, that is spelled ACTIQO and pronounced ACTIQO.
The application of decision intelligence here is incredibly innovative.
Tell us about it.
Think of business decision intelligence, like a company looking at a comprehensive dashboard of their profits and losses. Instead of the CEO just guessing how the quarter went based on their gut feeling, they use hard data to make strategic choices.
Right, they look at the numbers.
Exactly. ACTIQ is taking that exact same analytical dashboard concept and applying it to your living room. You can find it at getatico.com. Instead of tracking corporate profit and loss, the platform helps families track 4 highly specific metrics across their children's activities.
Which are time, cost, energy, and enjoyment.
That's right.
Let's really dig into those 4 metrics, because this is where the rubber meets the road. Time and cost are the tangible resources. But it's not just the obvious stuff, right?
Not at all.
Time isn't just the 1-hour practice on Thursday. It's the 30-minute drive there in rush hour, the practice itself, the drive home, and the exhaustion afterward. A 1-hour activity is actually a 2.5-hour block of family time.
Yes, and cost is the exact same way. It's the registration fee, sure, but it's also the gas, the specialized cleats they outgrow in 3 months, and the expensive team dinners.
Those tangibles add up so quickly.
They really do, but the absolute brilliance of the framework lies in tracking the intangible resources, energy and enjoyment.
How do you measure that?
You ask questions.
Really?
How much physical and emotional energy is this draining from your kid? Are they bouncing off the walls with excitement after a session, or are they melting down at dinner because they are completely depleted?
And it's not just the kids' energy, right?
Exactly. How is it affecting the family's collective energy? Are the parents exhausted from the logistics? Is everyone on edge?
And then, of course, the ultimate metric we discussed, genuine enjoyment. Are they actually having fun, or are they just relieved when the whistle blows and it's finally over?
By tracking these 4 signals over time, parents can reflect on their children's activities with objective clarity. Human memory is notoriously flawed, especially when we are stressed out.
Oh, absolutely.
We tend to remember the one amazing game-winning goal at the end of the season and completely forget the 40 hours of miserable, tear-filled car rides it took to get there.
So true.
Tracking the data gives you a clear, unbiased trajectory of how the season actually unfolded.
So what does this all mean? It means that by utilizing a dashboard like this, families can identify patterns that they might otherwise be completely blind to.
You start to see the truth of the situation.
You can clearly see which activities consistently energize your kids and build their confidence.
Yeah.
You might realize that your daughter always comes home from her local art class buzzing with ideas and in a great mood, even though it's only an hour a week and costs $20.
Conversely, the data might expose which activities have slowly, almost invisibly, turned into draining obligations.
That is the real power of decision intelligence.
It is. Maybe that elite soccer team, which eats up 15 hours a week and costs an absolute fortune, is consistently resulting in low energy and zero enjoyment.
Having that data right in front of you empowers parents to make choices based on their child's actual well-being rather than succumbing to the keeping up phenomenon.
It takes the guesswork and the guilt out of the equation entirely.
I love that. Taking the guilt out of it.
If the data shows that an activity is actively draining your child's energy and joy, stepping away from it isn't quitting. It is a strategic, data-driven decision to protect your child's well-being and reallocate your family's valuable resources.
It changes the whole dynamic from are we doing enough to keep up to are we doing what's right for our specific family?
Precisely.
And that brings us to the ultimate message from our source today, which I think is a fantastic anchor for anyone raising or mentoring kids. We have to remember why we sign kids up for these things in the first place.
Synthesizing the core message of the discussion, we are reminded that the ultimate goal of kids' activities isn't simply to keep children busy
It certainly isn't to keep them competitive with the neighbors.
or to groom them for a professional career at age 9. The true goal is growth. It is to help them discover their interests, to build their resilience and confidence, and to allow them to experience the pure joy of learning something new.
And success in that goal is going to look completely different for everyone.
It has to.
For some kids, achieving that growth and confidence might genuinely mean pursuing one single activity very seriously.
Yeah.
They might love the travel team, and the data will show high energy and high enjoyment. That is fantastic.
But for others, success might mean exploring a wide variety of entirely different experiences before they choose what they love most.
Maybe they try fencing for a month, then pivot to theater, then jump into robotics. That broad exploration is the value.
The key is making those decisions thoughtfully, utilizing frameworks like ACTIQ rather than simply bowing to the immense invisible pressure of what everyone else in the community happens to be doing.
It is about intentionality.
When we are intentional about the activities we choose, we preserve the magic of childhood. We allow kids the space to breathe, to play, and to figure out who they are without the crushing weight of an adult's expectations on their shoulders.
As we wrap up this deep dive, I want to bring this directly back to you. Whether you are a parent navigating these exact waters and trying to figure out the fall schedule, an aunt or uncle watching your nieces and nephews juggle insane CEO-level itineraries, or just someone observing how much the landscape of childhood has evolved, understanding these dynamics is incredibly valuable.
It helps us be better advocates for them.
Exactly. When we understand the pressure kids and parents are under, we can better support the children in our lives. We can be the ones who ask them if they had fun out there today, rather than asking if they won.
You can be the voices that validate their desire to explore, just as much as society celebrates early specialization.
This raises an important question, though, and it is something I would love for you to mull over after we finish up today.
Oh, I know where you're going with this. It's a great point.
We have spent this entire time talking about the brilliant decision intelligence framework, tracking time, cost, energy, and enjoyment to protect kids from burnout and obligation.
Right.
But what if we applied this exact same ACTIQO framework to our own adult lives?
Have we, as adults, also forgotten how to simply explore an interest for the sheer joy of it?
Think about it. When was the last time you picked up a hobby without feeling the immediate pressure to turn it into a competitive side hustle, a monetized gig, or a perfectly optimized morning routine?
Are we subjecting ourselves to the exact same overly serious, pressure-filled environments we were trying to save our kids from?
Wow. Are we tracking our own energy and enjoyment, or are we just going through the motions of adulthood on a treadmill we feel like we can't get off?
That is an incredible point to leave on.
Definitely something to think about as you go about your day. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive into the changing world of extracurriculars and the power of decision intelligence. Keep asking the hard questions, stay curious, and maybe try doing something this weekend just for the fun of it. Catch you next time.